Good afternoon, everybody, particularly if you're in the UK or Europe. It's afternoon. If you're in Australia, good evening. If you're in Canada, good morning. I think I've covered all the bases now. So wherever you are, welcome. This is the Q3 2024 software release webinar from Aptico. Thank you if you're joining us live. Welcome if you are joining us on the recording. We have 1 hour together to cover the new updates in the Aptico marketing platform and the software products that make it up. I'm James Alty, and I'm going to be your host. Let me just click on the slides. There you go. I'm James Alty. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm joined online by Mel, our marketing manager, who will be looking after the polls, the chat, the questions, anything that comes in as we update it. In fact, I've just spotted I've left on there no polls this time, but we do have polls. We've got the new Teams polls mechanism working for the first time, so we'll try that today. Hopefully that will work nicely and allow you to feedback. So the topics for today: an update on the software, a bit about our future plans, and particularly our forthcoming Apex and Aptico live events, and of course the latest news from Aptico. Now, if you've joined as a participant, you will be muted, but as normally, we welcome your interactions using chat or questions. Please do raise anything that you want more details of. So a few topics. First of all, I'm going to start with Orbit. We've got wonderful new capabilities for you, including powerful charts, for example. We have enhancements to what you can do with dashboards, particularly around the tabs, exporting them to PDFs, for example. I'm going to introduce transactional campaigning for you and show you how you can prioritize the audience picked for a campaign using a model, for example. And we'll touch on the fact you can now target campaigns using real-time audiences. We'll also look at some fast sets features this time. I'm going to demonstrate the new sequence analysis wizard, which helps you create on-the-fly pattern match type aggregations, and the fact we can now do pattern match with numeric variables rather than just with selected variables. I'll try and show you some of that. We'll also look at a new flexibility of how you format dates on scheduled tasks. Some users need particular formats of dates, and we can help you with that. A couple of other administrative items. I'm not going to demo PeopleSource this time, but it also benefits from the fact we can now order the campaign audience step. So in the audiences section, you can now put a sequence on a limited audience, so you can pick the best records first, for example. And we'll touch on the fact we now record more detail from Aptico email. And then several topics around design. I'm not going to demonstrate them. They're all kind of performance and technology related. But I'll talk you through some of the improvements that we've made, many of which you get automatically on your current designs. We've improved some of the performance. We have one of the biggest, well, the biggest system that we've ever created, has 28 billion rows in it, and that has revealed a few performance optimizations that we've undertaken. So everybody benefits. Remember, at any time you can find out what's new by visiting the What's New section on the website. We'll distribute this presentation as a PDF after the session, so you can click the links in the PDF to get to those pages. You can see a summary of it on the screen, and we do a What's New page for each quarterly release, which includes some of the Orbit features we've done during that quarter. Remember that you can access help at any time, and I've just made this a little bit more explicit, that help.aptico.com does not require a login. You don't have to remember anything about the Aptico portal or your user or your email address or that password that you picked ages ago. We make all of our help materials publicly available. It's a policy that we adopted some years ago, and the intention is to make it easy for you to find the answers to the questions that you raise yourselves whenever you need to, shortening the time to a solution for you guys. And I'm sure I've mentioned it before, we have two full-time technical authors, Chris and Reese, who are constantly updating the Help Hub, as we call it. So if you encounter something that we've not documented in the manner that you expected, just let us know, and we'll try and address that issue for you. It's an area that improves every week, let alone every sprint or even every quarterly release. We're constantly updating what's in the Help Hub, and it's at help.apteko.com. So 10 updates to Orbit since we had the last of these release webinars. You can click the link when we send you the document. It'll take you to the release notes, which are on the Help Hub. So if you go to help.apteko.com, choose one of the products and choose what's new, it will take you to the release notes, and you can see a reverse sequence, latest at the top, details of what we have been working on. Hopefully that's a really quick and easy way for you to find the details that you need about the Apteko marketing platform. Now, a few things that we've done, and there are many, and I don't have time in a 1-hour session to show all of them. But one of the things we've done is extend the audiences area of Orbit to allow you now to have multiple charts, multiple types of charts. At the moment, single dimension, single measure, but we're working on expanding that. And those charts are interactive, so you can use visualizations of an audience to help you refine that audience to pick the subset or the cohort that you wish. And I'll demonstrate this in a minute just to show you how we can use those different visualizations. And it's an important part of the Apteko platform that we make it easy to understand insights, so helping you produce these. We actually have a big project behind the scenes to bring the audience visualizations together with the dashboard visualizations to be just one mechanism, so that you could take a chart that you produced in an audience and add it as a tile to a dashboard and vice versa. We're not there yet. There's still work to do on the structures behind the scenes that will allow that. But just to give you an idea of the sort of direction that we are taking, you can imagine getting curious about a particular dashboard tile and go popping it out into an audience and looking at it full screen in more detail, and then vice versa, finding some insight and turning it into a dashboard. So all coming together. We've also made some enhancements to what you can do with dashboards. You can now export multiple tabs from a single dashboard into a single PDF. Great if you want to show your management team what you have been doing without doing a share to them. Clearly, we support the option to share dashboards free of charge to any number of users, and those users can interact with that dashboard. But you know what it's like, your boss gets themselves confused and goes off down a rabbit hole somewhere with some piece of the data that you know more about than they will ever care. And you don't want them to do that. So you might choose to share a static view of the dashboard as a PDF, and I'll show you that lovely mechanism. We've also enhanced the copy function, so you can now copy a tile in a dashboard to another tab within the same dashboard, helping you restructure your dashboards to provide a good structural framework for the information that you are sharing, whether it's going out as a static PDF or as a shared resource, for example. So we keep working away on those types of things. In the campaign area, we have a significant step forward, mirroring a capability that we've had for years in PeopleStage, and that is that you can now run transactional campaigns. What is a transactional campaign? It's one where you may send multiple messages intentionally to the same email address within a single iteration of a particular campaign. And we see it in, for example, the best use of Aptico competition entries, where some of our brands and partners are using this type of mechanism to communicate with customers or supporters around every interaction that they've made. So if someone has bought multiple products, you might want to email them with a separate email about the warranty for each of those products. Even if that's going to go on the same day to the same inbox, it makes perfect sense. If they've got multiple car insurance policies, you might want to do contractual notifications around those car insurance policies, even if they renew on the same day, for example. And I'll demonstrate this to you using our holidays database, just to give you an idea of how you might use the mechanism. It's now in Aptico Orbit campaigns. And really, as I think many of you know, we are moving functionality from FastStats and PeopleSage, in fact, from Designer, from FastStats and from PeopleSage into Orbit with every sprint. So we try to keep you up to date with the reasons that we are moving that functionality, the benefits of that functionality, and how you can use that in your own examples. So remarketing to existing customers around multiple transactions. We also now support live real-time data sets using our live data mechanism. I'm not going to try and coordinate demonstrating this to you during today. Note that this is not real-time triggering. You would still need to schedule your campaign, but at the point that you execute on that schedule, you can pick up live data from external data sources. So you can pull in data that's not yet in your FastStats system. Now, we're constantly looking at how do we manage real-time requirements against the snapshots of data that are loaded into your Aptico system as the FastStats database. We've tried various different mechanisms. Some of you, for example, know that we support Kafka, which is message streaming down to the millisecond, but in practice, it seems not many organizations want or need that level of real-time capability. So at the moment, we're working on the 1 minute granularity of the live data mechanism that allows us to pick up data from external data stores, for example. So let's go and have a look at Orbit. And if I pick the right one of these tasks, I'm already logged into Orbit just to share save time, and I can share that screen with you. Let's this is running in Aptico Cloud. You can see aptico.cloud as part of the URL. I can actually tell, because it says EU1, that that's running in one of the European data centers. And if you have questions about data jurisdiction, we can address those with you. When you start an Aptico Cloud instance, you can choose the jurisdiction that you want to put your instance in. But let's go have a look at a dashboard, and let's go to the initial page of that dashboard. And you can see here I have a tile called Target Group, and I have a tab called Targets tab. Maybe I wish to move the Target Group onto the Targets tab. What can I do? Well, I can choose to edit this dashboard. I can choose on the tile that I've already got created to copy that tile to somewhere else. And the important point is this dashboard that I'm currently on, the Aptico example holiday marketing database, is available to me. When I click on it, you can see it just refreshed behind the dialog, and that's because we just read the names of the tabs in this one, and I can choose to say that I want to go to the Targets tab. There's only 4 tabs, so I didn't need to search, but I could have done, and I can make a copy of that on the Targets tab. Notice at the bottom we've got a pop-up that the tile has been copied. I can link directly to view that, and you can see that we've placed the new tile. It actually looks like it's placed it in the same position as on the original tab, but that is pure coincidence. We've put it in the first space from the top left-hand corner, which happens to be in the same place on this tab as it was on the original tab, but that is chance, and I can clearly move it and put it somewhere else if I wish to. And were I to save this, which I'm not going to do, that tile would now be in two places, or that function would be in two places. I could go back and delete this tile. I'm not going to do it because we use this dashboard for demos. But I could delete this, and in effect, I've then moved the tile from one place to another. So you already had the ability to take the tile onto a tab of another dashboard, and you already have the ability to copy tabs to other places. You can see that here. You copy a tab to another dashboard, but we originally missed the requirement or the function to copy a tile within a dashboard, which in hindsight is a nice obvious one that we now meet. So that was a very simple one. I've just cancelled that, so we're back to the original. Let's just go now and use another new function, export as PDF. So I have here a dashboard with, as we just saw, 5 tabs, actually 4 others than the one that I was already on at that point. You can see they each contain different presentations of data. I can now go to my export as PDF. We get a lovely window showing the default, which is to export the tab that you are currently looking at. We can see that tab, but I can choose to pick all the tabs and then refresh the preview so that I can see it on screen. And now I can see my visualizations tab, my analysis tab, my counts tab, and so on. Each of the different resources I cancelled, so we don't have the new tile that I had moved. I suppose I could have exported that before I cancelled, couldn't I? But if I choose export, we will produce that, and there it is. It's actually opened it up. I practiced it earlier, so this is number 2. And if I just choose to open that file, it happens to open in a browser, and it looks pretty much exactly the same. And that's the point. You can export just exactly the same. And now you can download, well, it's downloaded, it's in my downloads folder. You can see up here, my web browser is showing a PDF. But you could open that in Acrobat, and you can attach it to an email. You can send a link to it to someone else, and it's a static view of the data. So a lovely mechanism for you. Let's go do some new stuff. So if I just close the preview, we're now going to go to audiences, and in here, in fact, I'm going to delete these two because this was from my practice, and I'll delete this one as well, just so you can see me create them from scratch. I'll close the lovely reminder. Let's make a new audience, and I'm going to say bookings in the last quarter, and create that. Now, an important point is when you're making an audience, you choose the table at the outset. So in this case, you saw me say, I want to select bookings. I've told the system I want to select bookings. And so I am going to now say that I would like to add a filter on the booking date, and I'm going to use my dynamic ranges. And we've done some more work on the dates. We're constantly updating the range of date options. When we first implemented that, we steered clear of putting the huge list of date options from FastStats just straight into Orbit. But actually, we keep getting requests for further options because it's a powerful mechanism. And let's just choose this quarter. So yeah, watch this space, more things coming here. It tells us the preview. This quarter is, in fact, sorry, I meant to pick the last quarter. Let's pick the right thing. There you go, the last quarter tells us the date, 15th to the 14th, and we'll apply that. And we can see that we have just over 100,000 bookings. Well, that is lovely. But let's just add a new page. And on here, we are going to put a chart. So you can see the chart tool. At the moment, I don't have any chart favorites, but I could do. Let's just have a chart. So Where did they travel? And we can either hit the properties dialog or set up a chart. And when we do, we've got a default chart type. I'll go back to that in a minute. And we're being prompted to choose a dimension. You can see an alert on the dimension and on the measure. So let's choose a dimension, and you can probably guess it already. I'm going to choose the destination, and behind the properties dialog, we see straight away a lovely chart. I could say that I would like to omit unclassified, so I'm only seeing populated data. I could say I would like a category display, not of all, but of, let's say, the top 10. So I could choose the top 10. I'm quite happy with the default title and display style. I could have codes and descriptions. Notice that the alert on the measure has gone because by default, we've picked that we want to show the count of the number of bookings. That may be appropriate, but you can always edit that and say, actually, I don't want count of bookings. I want to pick up a more interesting number. And I could say I would like sum of profit, default sum, display as a currency, default title, ordered in a natural sequence. I can put data labels on the top of the columns if you wish, and I can put some choices on how those numbers are presented. But let's just apply that, and we see a nice chart. We've had a reasonable number of controls on there, haven't we? But we could actually just explore some of the other types of charts. So I could say I would like it to be a bar chart, and I'm just going to step through these so you get a flavour for the quality of the charts that we're producing. Could have a pie chart, and with, what do I choose, top 10, that's just about legible, isn't it? You got the labels around the pie, similar but with a hole in the middle. It's a donut chart. Yesterday, the Chartered Institute fundraising conference, I saw someone presenting a donut chart where they'd broken it into segments. So this would have taken 10 separate segments across a page, like an array that we used to support in FastStats. So still do support in FastStats. So, there are lots of interesting ways of doing visualization. Just to show you lines, probably not suitable for this type of data, but would be great if it were temporal data. Areas, similarly, it's sometimes useful if you're stacking up the data. 3 versions of radar. I saw a nice use of this by one of our guys the other day, where we got data around the 24-hour clock. You have 24 categories around the edge, until actually we accidentally trimmed the unused sort of early morning and late night and ended up with a clock that didn't quite have the same number of hours on it. So there's always things to work on in that. So that's radar column. You can do the same with lines. It draws the points connected by lines or filled in as an area. And in this case, we've got 10 categories around the outside. I'm not particularly sure I would choose that format. And then just for some data, a funnel can be appropriate. If you have a sequence in your categories, then a funnel can be appropriate. The funnel is just arbitrarily narrowing from the widest point to I guess, half that width at the bottom. We don't make it proportional. As I said, it's always an area to work on. Let's go back to the column chart. And in fact, let's just change the variable. Again, I can just edit. This time I'm going to say I don't want the destination anymore. I want the continent. I'll choose that. And so we have a nice simple chart. Why have I done that? Well, because I would like to make some selections on it. And as you might imagine, it's as easy as pointing and clicking on the categories that you want to select. You can pick any of those. And you see, depending on how many I have got selected, a pop-up in the top left that is showing the number of items I've got selected. So I'll select Australasia. We've now got 3 items. If I go back to just having Europe, I've got 1 item selected. And from there, I can either deselect all of the categories, or I can create an audience. In this case, I'm going to create an audience, and a bit like creating an audience to start with by hand, you choose what table that's on. One of the attributes of Aptiko's understanding of a selection or a filter is that we can project that onto any table in your system. We know the data model defined in Fosset's Designer or Orbit Connect. We know how the tables relate. And so if you have a subset, in this case on the bookings table, we could give you, for example, the people who've made those bookings, or we could give you the households that contain the people who've made those bookings, or even more interestingly, we could find all the policies related to the people who've made the bookings that you've selected, so up and down the data model. For example, for today's purposes, I'm just going to pick bookings. I've chosen Europe, so this is bookings to Europe in the last quarter, because that was already in my rules. And we've automatically swapped to that audience. You can see we have a selection continent is Europe and booking date is today backwards by 1 quarter up to yesterday. My two audiences are both currently unsaved and they're available on this pop-up. You can see when I pop this up, I get various controls. I can open an existing audience into my workspace. I can create another new audience, or I can choose whichever of these audiences to work on, or I can close either of those audiences. So I could go back to my original audience, which has the chart page on it. I could go to the new audience that I just created that is just a rule and I haven't put anything else on there, and you can put everything on here, and you can have multiple charts, of course, on a single audience. In fact, let's just show you that. So I could have a chart that shows, let's say, source, and I could pick up, and this is just to give you a quick idea, I could pick up the source of the individual for all of the bookings. So we're actually putting a join across the data there, and I could have another chart and I could say something like dates, and I could pick from here the booking dates, travel date, let's say the travel date banded in, well, years is not interesting because I've only got 1 quarter, so let's do it in weeks and apply that. Oh, lovely, look at that. I could not have made a more beautifully organized chart. The point being, you can have as many as you like on a single audience, and you can have browse data and export data and lookalikes and whatever else you want on there. So I've now got 2 audiences. Let's just save this one, which is bookings to Europe in the last quarter. Saved. Let's go to the other one, which is still flagged as unsaved, and I'm going to save that. So I've now got 2 new saved audiences, because we want to go and do a campaign. And what we're going to do is we're going to start a campaign, but I'm just going to take you briefly to one side, and we're going to look in the application settings, and there are many settings now. Orbit is a big, powerful, wide-ranging product nowadays, and there's lots of powerful functionality for people authorized to do the application settings, and it is part of the roles and rights and permissions model. Let's go have a look at the campaign channel editor, and fortunately I do have permission. I can go to my channels. I'm going to go to the Aptiko email channel, and I just want to show you, without getting into all the gory detail of how you set up channels and authentication and settings and so on, I'm just going to show you that there are a couple of settings if you want to do transactional email. So if I look at the parameters, first of all, you can see here that this is set to contractual. In fact, let's just edit this so you can see. You have the choice of contractual or promotional. Promotional is forced to only work on the person table. That's the point of promotional activity. It is going to the individuals. If you wish to be able to do promotional activity and contractual, you have to set this to contractual. That allows both types of template, both types of work. And also, as a safety net on the output settings, you can see there's a choice allowing transactional output. And that is because we don't want people to accidentally send multiple emails to a single inbox unless they were knowingly doing that. So this channel has been defined for transactional output. I'm not actually going to need to save any of that, so I can cancel it. Let's go back to the campaigns. Let's create a new campaign, and we're going to call this an example. An example transactional campaign. It is going to be resolved on bookings. So here I can see the 3 tables that have been made campaignable in my definition. I can choose now bookings, and I can also choose where to put this. So by default, we'll put it into a people stage area called Aptico Orbit, but we will allow other areas if you have permission to use those areas. So you can see my user has permission to put a campaign in the social area or in the response attribution area. You can choose whichever you wish. You can't, incidentally, sorry if I click the right thing, you can't just put it in the top level. You can't put it in the marketing processes. That's just a header. But let's put it in the Aptico email area. So create a new campaign, and while I'm here, I'll mention that we've improved the section capability. I'm not going to use it today, but you'll now find you've always got a new section at the bottom of your campaign, so you can create a part of your diagram in a section, then link it in. But what we're doing today is we're going to edit this audience, and this is recent bookings, for example, or even bookings. Let's have bookings, and I can choose to both target and exclude people. So I'm going to choose, in this case, the selections I just made, which we'll call bookings. And just to emphasize the point, watch the order that I tick them, 1 and then 2. So Europe came first, and that means Europe is first in the list when we add them into the sequence. So we've now got bookings to Europe in the last quarter, and then all bookings in the last quarter. As you may well have spotted, my cunning plan is to get overlapped selections. This one is bigger than that one. We'll see why in a minute. I'll just point out that when we are working on bookings, we are just able to choose booking transactions. Up here for excludes, let's just say, in fact, if I choose all of them, here's some people, so I can exclude people. So these are targeting bookings. The other two, sorry, the top one is excluding people. So any student who has traveled to Europe or in the last quarter or both will be excluded. And we can say we would like to refresh the count, so it will go and retrieve the identities. So we've got 102,000 IDs in one selection, 56,000 booking IDs in the other, 43,000 individual person URNs, and you can see that we have shown there's a net count of 87,000. That is the 52,000 plus the 35,000 net count. I noticed when I was rehearsing this that we seem to be showing the net count twice, which I think is unintentional. I think the gross count should be 156,000, something like that. And I've just raised that as a question to look at. Notice that we have excluded the people who are in the student travellers, so we've actually got a lower total here. So although the bookings to Europe is top of my hierarchy, I had 56,000 bookings, there's only 52,000 come through because some of them have been excluded as student travellers. Lovely. Oh, no, in fact, let's do one more thing. Let's put a limit on here, because we can say that we would like a limit expressed as a quantity or a percentage. We can choose how many we want, on what basis. So we could say every day, every week, etc. I'll do it on every execution. And I can now, and this is the new thing, choose how to sequence that. So I could sequence by, for example, a PWE score descending. So that's a model score actually been made in FastStats. And I'm using that to pick highest scoring people first out of the whatever it was, 87,000 that we have in total. I'm picking the top 10,000 by score. So when we save that limit, it's displayed on here. And if I refresh the counts, we would see the appropriate limit. I'm not going to do it just because we've got lots to go on to. Let's just also see that because I'm running a booking campaign, you can see it up here, top left, this is bookings. If I choose an email delivery and choose to edit that, let's say this is transactional email. And because my Aptico email channel has been defined to allow transactional, I can choose Aptico email. We also have a demo channel that we use for testing. It automatically creates clicks, opens, bounces, for example. In this case, let's pretend to use the real channel. I can see how many credits I've got. And I could just go and look at all my templates. In a minute, I'll pick a template, but I can go look at all of my templates. And the important point is, if you're going to do transactional work, you're going to pick a transactional template. It ties up really. These templates will be sent by the Aptico engine one message at a time in order to ensure that we're not doing any form of deduplication. We're sending it directly to whichever of the templates we want. So I could choose a template, and I can create personalization opportunities in here. We could put the destination variable in here, for example, so that we say your recent holiday to Sweden, how did you get on? And you can insert the variables in here. But actually, if I close that and pick one of these templates, that was the Teal Green Reviews template, you'll see that it's already picked up that there are two content fields in there. I can add those automatically in. So you can see first name, which we saw at the top there, and this also got source in there. But just to prove the point, if I add another variable, let's say we'll call this the resort, and when I populate that with a variable, look that or notice that I can now pick booking level variables that would not previously have been available to me. If I was running an individual promotional campaign, I'd have only been able to pick person and household variables. I can, of course, still pick person variables. I can still pick household variables because that's the hierarchy in this demo dataset. But the important point is I can now refer to the individual transaction. The booking in this case could be the donation, could be the car insurance policy, could be the charity fundraising event that someone has signed up to, because they might have signed up to 3 of them and they're going to do all 3 of them. That's all possible. And look at this loveliness. It tells us that there is no such variable in my template at the moment. So what would I do? I'd go back up here and I would edit my template to refer to that resort variable. Notice I called it resort. I populated it with the variable in my FastStats system that is called destination, but I would refer to it as resort in my template. I think that's probably all that I have time to show you, just to give you an idea. Now, let me just check that I've done all the things that I wanted. Yes, I did. So, right, we're going to try something new. With any luck, Mel is going to show us a poll. Let's see if it appears on screen. Marvelous. I promise not to vote myself. But which of those are useful? It should be multi-select if we've successfully done that. So charts, export to PDF, transactional campaigns, real-time audience, which I didn't demo to you, or do you not use Orbit but wish you did, now that you've seen all the marvelous things that it can do? And I'll leave Mel to judge it because I can't see results. In fact, I will vote. Let's say audience charts myself. I think I can then see what you can see. Yeah, so there you go, transactional campaigns. Lovely. Thank you very much for voting. If you're watching the recording, the poll has closed. Okay, Mel, I think we're done on that. Let's carry on. I've done the feedback poll. Remember, you can try Orbit if you're not using it already. You can bring your own data to a trial. You can use the Salesforce system with your own data from the Sales Cloud, or you can use our demo system and try it. So that's all available. Right, let's look at fast stats, and we've extended on the fly pattern match aggregation to now allow you to use numeric values. So pattern match allows you to look at a pattern of categories at the moment, but we've extended it so you can now use a sequence of values, and those values can be expressed as ranges, or, and I'll show you this, we have some built-in special sequences that help you pick up ascending and descending examples, for example. I'll show you this in a minute. To support that, and in fact, the way that I'm going to show you the on-the-fly aggregation power is through the fact we've introduced a new capability in the sequence analysis wizard. It's a new version of the transaction sequence analysis that we've had for some years that allows us to create these pattern match type aggregations for you, saves you using the dialogue. We've also extended scheduled tasks, which have been in FastStats for many years, so that you can now put custom dates, custom formatting of the date. We had a client who needed a different format than any that we produce, and so we now allow user to find. A couple of sort of housekeeping items. We've informed you previously that Microsoft are changing the Bing Maps API that we use, the Bing Maps capability we use, and they are removing the public transport, what they call a transit mechanism. They are migrating to Azure Maps, and we are in touch with them. We attended a session on Azure Maps last week, and we're looking at the functionality mix between Bing and Azure, and they are different. But it means that we will be removing public transport drive zone type capability from this release. So that's gone. A few improvements to expressions. Remember, you can read about all these in the help. I don't have time to show all the things that our wonderful teams have got on with, but they are all documented in the help. So let's go and have a look at fast stats. And let's look at the wizards and the sequence analysis wizard. And as before, we choose a transactional table, and then we choose a grouping table. You can see those that are available above the booking table that I just picked. We can optionally group, I'll press next. We can optionally group by a variable. I don't need to for today's purposes. And we can order by a variable, so we can do earliest to latest booking date, for example. You can optionally say maximum of 30 days between transactions, for example, for those to be deemed associated, or you can leave it unconstrained. And then we can choose our pattern type. So in this case, I'm going to say that I want a numeric pattern. And so I need to choose a numeric variable. Let's say it is the profit that we've made on a particular booking. And here are the patterns that are built in now that we support the numeric variables. So we could do, for each person, we could find the longest pattern in which they have increasing profit on each of their holiday bookings. So remember, we're grouping around a person, we're processing bookings, that's our transaction, and we're saying please find those that have the longest increasing pattern, for example, or you could say the longest different pattern from the previous, so a different value each time, which is actually highly likely, isn't it, in a booking. And if I say longest increasing, sorry, you can also define this manually. So you could then set the pattern, give the pattern a name, and then you could say 100 to 200, for example. Except that formatting is not happy with that. So you could say, in fact, let's just pick one of these, greater than 100, for example, or not. But I commend you to read the help on how we format those ranges, so I've clearly not got it quite right. But you can put patterns in manually in order to identify particular ranges. Did someone move from low value to medium value to high value? You might have your own business definition of that. But in this case, let's choose for each person their longest increasing value pattern, and what do we want to return from that pattern? So you could say, I want the number of the transaction, or I could say, I want the value, for example. And you can see various different options. You can have that, how long is the pattern? How many bookings did this pattern continue for? That was the length. What was the span in the dates, for example? So lots of choices. The important point is if I just say, give me the value back on the order table, when I press next, I can say longest increasing value pattern, and it gives me a summary, tells me the values I've chosen. If I finish that, what am I going to get? An expression, and that expression is the one that I could have written by hand if I chose to. And the dialogue's not difficult. It is a case of filling in some sort of information on here, except it's only from this release, Q3, that we have the ability to work on numeric. You can see here we can either match numeric or selectors, or combinations of both. So you can do even more powerful pattern matching on there, and we could preview that pattern and see what we found, and you can see the date, which I must have chosen to return that value. So we can see the date on which the longest pattern started, but you have, whatever it was, 10 different things that you can choose to bring back. Right, I'm rapidly in danger of running out of time, so hopefully that's given you a flavour for that. Let's just go to manage scheduled tasks, and let's add a task, and let's choose one of the obvious items like rebuilding something, and we'll browse to my FastStats folders and public. And let's go to something like selections. We'll probably find an item that we can rebuild. So there's a cube. So we're going to rebuild that cube. We can append a date to the file name, and I can do short dates, long dates, etc. New one it is user defined dates. Now just in rehearsing this, I went and looked at the help and couldn't find that we'd defined the symbols, but I believe it will be of that type, for example, and we'll update the help just to confirm the labels that you can use in there. So, if we put slashes in there and your system doesn't want slashes, of course, you can now do dashes or colons or equal signs, or just have the year and the month and not the day, whatever. Those sorts of things are now possible, and it just makes it a more compatible system. So that's I'm not even going to run that, but you get the idea. Let's just do another feedback poll, please, Mel. Let's see whether any of that is useful for people watching this. So do you think you can use any of numeric ranges in pattern matching, looking at transactional data? Do you like the fact we've now got a wizard to do that? Will you use user-defined dates on schedules? And in fact, I didn't demo it much, but there's some new expressions. And if you just make your choice and then submit that, we can see who's using those. Okay, so some people picked each of those items. Thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you, Mel. Microsoft have only just introduced that polls mechanism. When we looked last quarter, the pretty universal consensus was that polls mechanism in Teams didn't work. It wasn't worth using, and it looks really good now. I think next quarter we'll have even more stuff for you to do with reactions and emoticons and all sorts. Right, PeopleSage, same thing as I just demonstrated in Orbit Campaign, because it's the same engine under the hood. We can now allow you to prioritize which records to pick when you've got a volume limited audience. So you can, for example, ensure that you pick the best scored people first or the highest value customers first, whichever. And we can now record hard and soft bounces from Aptiko email, put them in the comms history. So you could look and see who'd had a soft bounce and then a delivery, for example, if that helps you with your targeting. Right, Designer, a few things that we've improved, a few more options for the super technical, and we will cover this in a focus group at Aptiko Live. So we're going to look at some of these improvements. You can now make larger text blocks, which can improve performance when selecting across text variables. We do a better job automatically now of storing and reusing Salesforce access tokens. So if you're connected to a Salesforce system, we'll reduce the number of API calls. We give you more flexibility now for how to generate the unclassified codes. We, by default, put a right justified exclamation mark in there. You now have the choice. We've helped you by mitigating a Snowflake ADO provider bug, so I've mitigated that. We also have a couple of performance improvements. If you use the refresh cache post-load action, which will look at your FastStat system, find which items are in the cache that are most frequently and most recently used, and run them in advance of the users arriving at work, we've made that more powerful because you can now choose to dedicate multiple threads rather than a single thread to that. So you've got a big server that's sat there doing nothing at 5 in the morning. Give it a bit more power, it'll get further through the cache before your users come to work. Which incidentally is all kind of automatic behind the scenes. You choose that option and we'll work out which cache entries to refresh. We've also optimized selections when you have a large set of numeric values. So if you're selecting a large list of numbers, that will go faster. As will the sorting in the data load stage. You can see in the screenshot on the left that you can now choose the number of parallel sorts. And this is where you have data models with multiple sibling tables. You can now sort those in parallel. So you've got the parent table already identified. We've done the processing on that. If you've got a series of different transactions to that parent table, each of those transaction tables can be sorted in parallel. Depends on the breadth of your server, how many parallel sorts you want to undertake, because our sort algorithm uses parallelism within the sort as well. So it will be a case of tuning it. If similarly you generate partial indexes for your Aptiko system, which can optimize queries when the query only uses a subset of the tables, which is quite commonly the case. We've made the generation of the partial indexes faster. And we've also fixed a bug that was causing slow FastStat service startup if you had a variable in that system that had combined categories with a large number of categories in there. So performance increases through the system. As I said, that's coming from work we've done on a very large system that has 28 billion rows in total, I believe now. I think 13 billion in the biggest single table. We've pushed the capacities up in Q1, and that system in production use is just highlighting a few areas where it doesn't matter if you've only got a million or even a billion crows, but when you've got 28 billion, you want everything to be as optimal as possible. So that's where those are coming from. Right, a few exciting announcements. Remember, you can always go to the ideas portal or email wishes@apteco.com to send us wishes. You can view the roadmap. I'll show you in a moment. You can visit the What's New page and you can see our product milestones page. They're all linked in the document. That's our roadmap. It has 2 levels. The top level epics are quite brief, but under the hood, you've got the features that make up those epics. And on many of those features, if you click on it, you will see a pop-up that shows the detail of what that feature will entail. So you can drill through 3 levels in effect. In fact, the epics have a summary as well, but it's most valuable on the features. So log on to apteco.com, go to the portal. Log into the portal, and then in the sales and marketing area, there's a roadmap section you can visit in there. Forthcoming events, right? For those of you that are Apteco partners, we're delighted to invite you on Thursday, the 14th of November from 6 p.m. to join us for Apex, the Apteco partner exclusive event, when we will brief you on the topics we will be showing at Apteco Live. So Thursday, 14th of November in Leicester, and we have already sent the invitations out to the partner organisation. So if you would like to attend on behalf of your organisation and you're an Apteco partner, talk to your Apteco coordinator, make sure you sign up to attend at Leicester. It's 1 hour on the train north of London with a direct train. So that's Apex. We also have previously announced Apteco Live, Friday the 15th, Monday the 18th. Again, invitations have been sent out, and Apteco Live is also at the National Space Centre in Leicester. You can attend in person on Friday. That session will be live streamed, so it's a hybrid event, or you can join online on Friday, but on Monday it's all online. So the event is spread over Friday and Monday. Friday from the National Space Centre, Monday from the studio. And I'm delighted that in a world exclusive, for those of you attending the Q3 webinar, we can reveal this year's keynote speaker is Helen Sharman, Europe's first female astronaut, Britain's first ever astronaut, who orbited Earth for 8 days. And we thought, if we're going to have our big event at the National Space Centre, who better to speak to us about teamwork, projects, complexity, and her work than a real astronaut, ladies and gentlemen. So come along to the Space Centre on Friday the 15th of November, where we will have a presentation from Britain's first ever astronaut, Helen Sharman. And I'll not steal her thunder by describing what she did, but it was a great experience that at one point didn't look like it was going to happen, then did look like it was going to happen, and it did. Funded privately in the end, rather amazingly. So in an era when space travel is becoming more common, you'll have seen the SpaceX capturing their booster rocket and launching the Falcon 9 yesterday. Isn't it amazing? We've got a real live astronaut to talk to you. And she's been on the radio with the NASA astronauts stuck on the space station. She's been a celebrity. So we're very lucky. We booked her before all of that kicked off. So to finish the session, and for once I'm on time, Mel, can you give us the feedback poll? Please, we'll give you a few minutes. Oh, look, Mel's already got emoticons on there. So was it useful, or do you want your hour back? And I'm going to cheekily vote for one of those myself so I can see your results. And well, that's cool. Don't think we've ever managed a unanimous vote before. So thank you very much. Glad it was useful. polling mechanism seems to work. Thank you, Mel. So I'm James Alty. I've been your host, but I have the privilege of presenting the work of all of my colleagues in our offices around the world. So thank you very much for joining us. You can contact me if you've got any questions that we haven't answered during the session using any of those contact points. You can scan the QR code. That's it. Thank you very much for attending the Apteco Q3 2024 webinar. That's the end of the session.